quorum, but we'll see if a few more people show up. Just a few more minutes.
You look sharp. It must not have been in the rain today.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, as I call to order, the June 22nd, 2021 meeting of the Escambia Children's Trust Board. Before I start, I want to thank the county for allowing us to use the chamber room for our meeting tonight. And also a special thanks to Mr. Sachs, who just drove over from Tallahassee. He had 2 o'clock meeting, a trust meeting in Leon County. He just got here, 5 minutes to spare, so thank you. Tonight, the meeting's being recorded and it's going to be shown on Facebook Live. We appreciate all of your interest in this Children of Escambia County and welcome your input if you wish to speak at the public forum or to an agenda item. You'll need to complete the form that's in the carousel in the back of the room, and please submit the form prior to speaking time to Mrs. Appleyard at this table right here. Each speaker will be allotted 3 minutes. So we've had a busy last few weeks in preparation for tonight's meeting in the hopes of meeting our July 1st trim deadline. Ms. Appleyard and the Appleyard Agency has worked very hard to get us where we are today. Also, we thank you to the Hall Center, Amber McClure, who's the CFO of the county, all the county attorneys, and all the board members in assistance in helping the trust hopefully meeting our deadline. At this time, we will approve the agenda. And if there's no objection, I would like to add, we need to add under the budget committee, we need to vote on the resolutions that were sent out that will be sent to the county. So are there any objections to adding that to the agenda? All right, if no objections, I'm going to go ahead and add that to the agenda item under recommendations from Budget Committee to vote on the resolutions that were previously sent out.
I move the agenda with the addendum from our chairperson.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? At this time, we will review and approve the minutes from the May 25th meeting of the Escambia Children's Trust meeting. Is there a motion to?
I move to accept the minutes from our 5/25/21 minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, at this time, we're going to hear from Ms. Appleyard, who's the interim administrator of the trust.
After tonight's meeting, there are several legal steps that need to be taken, reports filed with TRIM. That's just informational that based on what happens tonight, we will be able to meet that deadline, I believe. We also will have a report to the Board of County Commissioners based on that same budget. After this, Stephanie and I will do some polishing to that. It will just be a brief summary of our activities and plans for the future. The line of credit will be addressed with the Board of Commissioners at their July 8th meeting. It is in process. Thanks to the county attorney's office. They're working with us to make that happen. And hopefully the website will go live by July 1st, and all of the information should be there by then.
Any questions for Ms. Appleyard?
September 14th and 20th, could you tell us about that?
Oh, yes. As part of the TRIM packet, we have to have, or the TRIM process, we have to have 2 public hearings. The first is a tentative budget hearing, and the dates are very prescribed. They have to be between September 3rd and September 20th, but the commissioners, the school board, and the city all have priority over us, so we backed into that date. The 14th happens to be our regularly scheduled meeting. It has to be after 5 o'clock, which is why on Monday through Friday or any time on a Saturday. So we decided to shoot for 5:01 on the 14th. Our regular meeting will follow that. The final hearing will be the next week, and that's Monday, the 20th, again at 5:01. Having not gone through this before, we really don't know how long this will take, but we need a quorum, so we are asking you to get that on your calendars with some priority. September 14th and September 20th.
Will they be here at the county?
Yes,
commission?
yes. These will be advertised as part of the TRIM process.
Okay, any other questions for Ms. Appleyard? Okay, moving right along. We have several items tonight that need approval from the board. First is our bylaw committee met on June the 16th, and the draft minutes were included in your packet, which was mailed out on June the 16th. The draft minutes were included in your packet, mailed on June the 18th, and I will let Ms. Hightower give our recommendations.
And one thing I want to say is there will be a revised minutes sent out because we're working to help get our minutes into an order that in the future they can always, the person can follow very easily. We did meet and we had a full contingent. We were charged with looking at the issue of conflict of interest forms, RFP and policies and procedures. And just to start, we decided that we were going to wait on the policies and procedures. I have for you tonight, you should have received the conflict of interest form that we are proposing. So, Madam Chair, I would, by the direction of the Bylaws Committee, move the adoption of the conflict of interest form that was received.
And as this is a recommendation from a committee, does not need a second, I would like to open this up for recommendation for discussion.
And might I just kind of give you the information? We looked at the various organizations around the state that had them. Our bylaws state have a conflict of interest statement in them. There is law that covers this, but we also thought this was an opportunity for us to get to know each other a little better. What boards do we sit on? What affiliations do we have? And so when our staff comes in, a legal staff comes in, they have this information, and should something happen that they need to advise us one way or the other, it would be easier for them to have it ahead of time instead of just thinking about it the night of the vote.
I do see a misspelled word, but I don't, so we might need to update that, where it says memorandum of voting conflict.
Yeah.
We might need to update that. Is there any more discussion on this conflict of interest disclosure?
Madam Chair, my only concern was that I anticipated that there might be a catch-all section. It lists two pretty specific disclosures, and so I just wanted to, I anticipate, and again, I haven't I'm still working on exactly the language, but I anticipated based on our discussion of adopting one of these forms that I was going to have to file something that just basically gave everyone a heads up that if the matter or organization may appear in front of me, I'm going to have an issue, and that's not necessarily an organization that I'm a member of or that I profit from. But I don't know if you just want me to override the lines, or if we want to add like a catch-all section, or you want me to submit something separately, or you just want me to do the 8B forms?
I don't have a problem, Madam Chair, with a conflict of interest, but I serve on 13 boards, and I can assure you that I've been doing youth activities for a long time, and there are going to be many that are going forward. I mean, in our practices, and I don't know if this has been approved by legal, in our practices, we disclose before we vote. I mean, disclosure. And so I hate limiting myself to writing down organizations that I'm engaged in that may come before this. I mean, I think that as we are given our ethics course,
Well-
we understand that we have to disclose it. So, I mean, it's fine. I mean, I just don't know if it's necessary.
It's not necessary, you're right. It's just a way for us to get to know each other a little bit better, to know who, I mean, we're under sunshine law, we can't really go have dinner and hang out and get to know each other. So it's a way for us to get to know what.
Oh, we
boards
can do that.
we
We just can't
We
talk about it
can, but
yet.
it looks, you know what I mean, it might look not the best. So it's a way for me to know that, you know, the pastor serves on this board and that board. Technically, according to the law, none of us have to not vote on anything unless we derive special private gain. Our spouse or children derive special private gain. And we still have to fill out, replace, you know, Form 8B, which is the voting conflict by the state.
I mean, I would have to disclose it. If my wife is the executive director of a organization, then I have to disclose it. Or if I serve on that board, I would have to disclose it. And so, I mean, and I'm fine with it, but I do not want is that there comes a vote in which there's an organization that I'm a board member of, and someone pulls this public record and said, you know, he was a member of Big Brothers Big Sisters, and he didn't put it on this form. So I'm reluctant to fill that out. I mean, because I could leave one out, or, you know, by the time it comes to a vote, I could be on another board. So, I mean,
If I might. You'll notice in the last paragraph with the misspelled word that it does not replace Form 8B, which is the form that you have to complete anytime that there's a vote in front of us that you specifically have a conflict of interest.
Right.
So it does not take the place of those obligations that you were just discussing.
We did have a long discussion at our bylaws subcommittee meeting. Many trust, and I will let Mr. Sachs talk about this, because he's on the Leon County Trust. All board members get off the trust. I mean, get off all of their nonprofit boards before they serve on the trust. And so that has not been a requirement of our trust, and we, you know, that was not on our application for those of you that had to apply. And because I feel like that, you know, a lot of us who are on this board are very active in the community, and that's why we're on this board. So the reason, but when I did talk to some of the people from Achieve Escambia, they said many trusts get off the board, members get off all of their nonprofit boards before they become on the trust. We decided, you know, instead we would just do this conflict of interest policy so we don't have any impropriety or any, if there's, you know, if there's five people on the YMCA board and they're coming to ask for money, and we only have a pot of money that's only so big, we don't want to look like we're playing favorites, which, you know, that's why we thought the conflict of interest policy might be a good idea. I mean, we don't derive gain from it, but we just want to be fair to all. Does anyone on the bylaws committee want to jump in?
I was going to agree with you. I think that, yes, tomorrow I could be added to a board, but I know we were talking about like specialty or area that you may have expertise in, and so having this list will also allow us to know, you know, if you have sat on this board or what you've done in the past, so that you may can speak to that organization or that particular interest. So like you said, we can't per se always be able to sit down and talk outside of here, so that paper would give us the opportunity to at least kind of know where the rest of the board stands as far as what they've done in the past and, you know, what they currently do now.
The comments about Leon County, and I did hear from one of our board members that he resigned from the Whole Child Leon, which is the sort of the big advocacy group in Leon County. And I think he did that understanding that he would have to recuse himself from a lot of votes in that environment. I guess the question I have about this is that because we don't talk to each other and we don't share information with each other, these documents, are they going to be like publicly somewhere that everybody would then go out and look at them and read them from time to time to see who belongs to what? I mean, I understand telling our executive director and maybe our lawyer what our backgrounds are so they know, but just having it available to each other, I don't know under what platform they would be, if the public would be out there looking at them. I'm a little lost as to the purpose. I understand the concept, but I don't quite get how we would benefit from it, which is what it sounded like you were going down, knowing what each other's backgrounds are. I mean, we could collect everybody's resumes and learn about that too, so I'm just a little confused.
Yeah. And Madam Chair, I agree. I mean, I'm fine with full disclosure. I mean, so obviously, I mean, anything that we submit is public disclosure. But unfortunately, if there's someone that sits on this board, we had probably 30 or 40 applicants that submitted to the governor with every board that they served on, their finances, and the whole 9 yards. And so if anyone was interested in learning more about a board member, if that's the purpose, they could have learned a ton about a board member by just using their gubernatorial application, which you had to put everything on to be presented on this board. So I do agree with my colleague there.
So is there a new motion or amended motion on the table? Or not yet? We're still in discussion. Ms. Woods?
So I had a question. The 5 board members that were placed on the board, did you guys also have to fill out an application because you were automatically appointed? So we wouldn't have your background if you didn't have to do an application?
The 5 of us that are elected or appointed, all of ours is already disclosed. Our resume, our disclosures, our finances are already public knowledge. We
No,
fill
we
it
did
out
not
every
have
year.
to.
Every year we fill out our finances, every board, our business, what we own, what we do, everything for the judge. Any of those of us that were appointed, all of our stuff is already out there.
And where would I find that information?
State of Florida,
So this form would be,
or supervisor of elections.
so this form would just make it where I didn't have to go and look it up? Yeah.
If I
I'm just
might,
asking.
if I might,
I mean, you might want to add another layer of bureaucracy, but that's fine.
all of us on the board had to fill out a financial disclosure form, and that's what he's discussing. And that goes to the Ethics Committee. And I think, I'm not sure exactly how I know I can access it.
Yeah,
But anybody
but clearly, that document that we file as a financial disclosure form is nowhere near what had to be applied for to be on this board.
That's right.
I mean, it doesn't tell you anything. It's a lot of NAs on my form, because I don't have other income coming from other sources, and your boards certainly wouldn't be on there.
Yeah.
So it's apples and oranges. It's not the same context.
Ms. Appleyard?
I was just going to say, we were provided this sample when the county attorney's office gave this booklet. Our acting county attorney isn't as familiar with it, so maybe we want to wait until we have that comfort level of what the purpose is. We were doing what we thought were best practices from other groups.
Yes. Yes, well, yeah. so I mean-
It seems useful on one hand, but if there's enough resistance to it, I think maybe hold off.
Ms. Hightower?
I would move to postpone the vote until after we have legal services provided.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Rather than phrasing it as postponing the vote, is there a means of bringing it back up for discussion? We may find that there's no need for this or a formal vote, or
Well, if I might.
Yes, ma'am.
That's why I postponed and didn't table, because if you postpone to a certain time, you can bring it back, and if we get direction that at some point we don't need to do this, then that would be something that would be brought back.
Any more discussion? All right, all in favor of postponing the conflict of interest form until we have legal representation, and then seeing what they say? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so that motion passes. All right, next to our next recommendation from the bylaw committee.
The bylaws committee, by direction of the bylaws committee, I recommend that we put out an RFP for legal services. This was brought to us by the chair and our executive director. We were going to talk about how to create an RFP, and so we're still working on that, but we've decided that we probably need someone that's available to us as we move through this process of trim, hearings, all the legal steps that need to be done. We are very appreciative of the county attorney being there to help us with all of this, but we believe that we need to start moving forward on getting the staff that is going to be working specifically for the trust.
Is there any discussion on the RFP for legal services?
I would just, Madam Chair, recommend that we don't tie ourselves to necessarily an RFP. Legal services are exempt under Chapter 287, so we don't have to procure them via competitive procurement, and that would give us some flexibility to either do a request for quotes or something that might be a little bit more streamlined, that doesn't have the boundaries of an RFP, which is very legally bound.
Are you positive on that? Because we asked, and
100%.
Nobody was sure.
100%.
100%, okay, good.
287.057, parens
Which,
5.
287.057?
.057, parens 5.
All right, thank you.
24 years in contracting.
So if we're exempt from doing the RFPs, and is that only on legal services? Are you saying that the executive director, or can we make a motion for the interim executive director to choose a law firm? Or do we need to make
Yeah,
it open for
A typical way to do it, either executive committee could get together and do a search, or you could give it to the interim administrator to go out and solicit input from attorneys who have, especially attorneys that are experienced setting up independent boards, because you'd want them to have that independent special taxing district experience and other government-related experience. Those two are really critical.
So we could shortlist, we could do a request for proposal and shortlist it and request them, is what you're saying?
And the third priority would be contracting and procurement, because we're going to have a lot of that, and we're going to want attorney opinions
Right.
on that all the time.
Go ahead.
I was asking a question to my colleague, Madam Chairperson, but we wouldn't just solicit one firm. You know, we would let the director bring us maybe 3 or 4, and we just wouldn't put out a competitive low bid RFP. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's more of a terminology thing, not binding ourselves to a request for proposals or an ITN, but doing it in an informal, competitive solicitation.
Absolutely.
That's why we need an attorney.
But he said it doesn't have to be an RFP.
Right. I just want to make sure that we're opening
Right.
up, that everyone who wants to apply for this is able to apply for this, and so it doesn't look like that we are handpicking our attorney. So that's why, at the request for proposal, the idea was to do an e-blast on the Escambia County Bar Association, to allow people to, I guess we could still do that without doing an RFP. We could still do that.
Yes.
Okay, that's what you're saying.
In other words, if you don't call it an RFP, you're unbounded. You can
Right.
use whatever technique. you
Okay,
want.
gotcha.
We can do a solicitation for qualifications. We can do
Okay.
whatever we want. Gives a lot of flexibility
Repeat that again, Commissioner, so solicitation.
for qualifications.
Thank you.
So then the next question is, because as I was looking for policies and procedures, there are some of the trusts that have policies on hiring, et cetera. So I'm going to go home and look this statute up, but is it your understanding that the executive committee with the interim director do we need to set a date that they would get the information back from whatever firms were, and then do we let them make the decision, or do we send it to the personnel committee?
That would be a decision of the trust to decide at what level you give what authority. So if we today decide to have the executive committee with the interim administrator go do a search and bring to the trust the applicants with their recommendation, that's one way to do it. Another way would be to give them the authority to do the hiring. But I would say that all 10 of us probably would want to see who the lawyer is, understand their background, know what kind of search was done to make sure we had minority, women, business enterprises involved. What I'll tell you is the experience we're looking for, contracting, setting up special districts, experience with government, it's not a lot of people. So it's not going to be a big group you're picking from.
It's not.
And the
Exactly.
hourly rates are not cheap. So get ready for digesting some numbers.
Well, the executive director has given me a lot of good news about particular firms that may be coming forward to help out in the transition. But I'd be supportive of giving the executive committee and the executive director whatever authority they want, as long as they brought at least, 2 or 3 firms back to the full board for the 9 of us to vote on.
So your recommendation is for the executive committee, not the personnel committee, executive committee to do a solicitation for qualifications, meet with the interim executive director, vet those firms out, and then bring back 3 or 4 or 5, however many we get, back to the full board on August the 10th, and vote on August the 10th, if we can, on an attorney for us.
I'm supportive of that, Ms.
All right, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
All in favor? Okay. So that was our motion. Okay. Does that work?
Good job.
Well, it was
Good
kind of
job.
out of order, but
Well,
Excuse me, but could I
Yes.
clarify, are we going to go forward with the e-blast, reword this RFP solicitation up for qualifications, but go forward with it? I mean, we had it pretty much ready to go at the end of this week, just because of the holidays coming up. So is that still good to go?
The fact that it's an informal process, that's a great first step. If you don't get any responses, you may have to do another solicitation another
okay.
way. So
Well,
it's
that's-
a great first step, first start.
Good.
See what we get.
go ahead, Judge.
I just pointed, a question. If we're gonna, if y'all are gonna make the deadline July 9th, I just wanna make sure that the, applications will be made available. I mean, because typically when we get documents.
Is your microphone on? Okay.
Typically, it's my understanding, again, for the sunshine purposes, is that we're not getting information until it comes with the agenda that is published. So how are we going to get copies of these applications in enough time to digest them and review them? Because,
Madam Chair? They can be posted on, they're coming in, they can be
Okay.
posted on the
Perfect.
Children's Services website. When we were doing the appointed superintendent, every application came in, and it was posted there for everyone to be able to review, in public everywhere.
exactly. So that's what y'all are going to do then with these? Okay.
Any other questions, comments on that? All right, next recommendation from the bylaws committee. Yes, ma'am.
The executive
Could you-
committee, I'm sorry, would still be conducted in the sunshine? when
Definitely,
vetting?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
just wanted to be sure.
Everything we do. The other thing that, as we were discussing the policies and procedure possibility, we were, all of you I know have been perusing different websites, and many of them have visions, mission statements, guiding principles, and our committee would like to recommend that we do a retreat. We're not going anywhere posh for it, but that we dedicate up to 3 hours to have those conversations about why we're here, what we hope to do, where we're going. And the recommendation has been given to me and I just put my piece of paper, to try to, I don't know whether, we're looking at dates in August 10th, which is already a board date, 17th and the 24th during the day. like earlier in the day, not at the time of the board meeting. Excuse me?
Where would you have it?
Had we decided that?
We haven't gotten that far.
We decided we needed a date before we could figure out where we were going to have it.
Your house.
But this would be a publicly advertised meeting.
Of course.
My question was really about the date. You said it was already a date. I have July 20th as the date. How is August 10th also a date?
Well, I think the July 20th was the old agenda, I think. July 13th is the new, it was updated agenda that was sent out. July 13th is the next board meeting. And then August 10th is the next board meeting.
Okay.
July 13th, I'm sorry, and then August
So the
10th.
second Tuesday of
It's the second Tuesday. I put the wrong one on the first one when she updated it. She changed it.
July 13th is the next one, okay. For the record, just so, I will not be in town. I think we have NACO, July 13th. Yeah, I think, isn't that, yeah, we have NACO, July 13th, so I won't be here. July 20th I would, but not 13th.
If I might go back, do people have, objections to doing it on the weekday?
I will not be participating more than likely, but I don't have an objection to you all.
Okay. If we had it any other time besides a weekday, would you be able to participate?
It just depends.
Okay. I just waited, just to see how much we needed to worry about that. So,
But the earlier in the morning, the better,
yeah,
if we're gonna do 3
like
hours.
8 to 11 or 9
7
to 12
10,
or something like
yeah,
that.
and With the lunch, yeah.
I'm up at that time. I can do 7.
I'll do
Some
7.
people have children, though.
Patty, will school have started then?
School starts on the 9th of August.
So I think anytime after school starts would be great.
What were the proposed dates again?
Tuesday the 10th, Tuesday the 17th, and Tuesday the 24th.
This is August.
August.
And Patty, I could do anything, but we have a standing meeting. I could do 7 to 11. We have a standing meeting at 11 every Tuesday. That's on our schedule that I can't do anything at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday. I can do anything before 11 or anything after 1 o'clock on Tuesdays.
I'm good on all 3 days.
Do you want to tell them about we're getting a facilitator for free?
Ms. Appleyard had reached out to Ted Kirscher to see if he would facilitate. We feel like we need someone that's not a member of the group to do the facilitation, and these are dates that are convenient for him. So do you want to speak to that?
For those of you who don't know Ted, he was a longtime executive with Landrum Personnel, and now he's city HR. He's done a lot of facilitating for nonprofits and is happy to do this for us.
Do we want to pick the 17th? Or do you want to pick the 10th? That might be, for those of you that work, it might be too much in one day, I don't know. 17th?
Yeah, 10th is bad for me.
Okay. I have to be in town for the
8 to 11 tentatively?
8 to 11 tentatively. Now we have to find a location.
What type of site do we need, Patty?
Somewhere probably with a table
Right.
that all of us could sit around. I mean, I might could get the hall center, but that's not comfortable. I'm just going to say, but if there were, like one of the hotels may have a room available, or
I mean, do we need where we can,
it has to be available so the public can come in and watch, and we can always, do Facebook Live or something to make sure it's televised.
What about like the Fricker Center somewhere, like a community center? Could we do that?
that'd be great.
Just a change of scenery and.
Could do it at the
Okay.
Fricker Center. I mean, I think that would be great because school will be in. I mean, I think any of our community centers.
Yeah.
I mean, I could speak for Brownsville today, but I couldn't necessarily speak for Fricker, but I'm sure the mayor would.
Brownsville, then, or wherever. I'm just throwing that out.
I think we ought to take it to the neighborhood. Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Will you look into, give her the
Yeah,
contact?
absolutely,
Give
yeah.
Ms.
I'll look
Appleyard?
into Fricker or Cobb or Brownsville,
Okay.
and at the next board meeting, I'll bring it back.
Okay, so that was our and everything from the bylaws committee. Now we're moving on to the budget committee.
Madam
Yes, sir.
Chair, and you know, we did, speaking of Brownsville, I have a town hall community meeting at Brownsville that started at 5:30, so I
Okay.
came in first. So I support everything that you have on the agenda.
Oh, well, that's great. Thank you. So you're so
I mean,
kind.
if you just needed my vote.
Okay. Well, we're going to do budget next. If you would like to, but you have to leave, I understand. We met on June the 16th. Dr. Smith, the treasurer and committee chair, is unable to attend tonight's meetings. In his absence, Mrs. Woods is going to give the report of the recommendations.
So everyone should have got a copy of the budget. This budget comes from the committee. We move to accept the budget as presented. Ms. Appleyard, I did have a question. On the agenda, it says to vote on the millage and to vote on the budget. So is the committee recommending or are we voting?
You're recommending the millage that the 0.5 mil, and then the committee's also recommending the budget that was adopted in the budget committee.
Okay,
So
so
it's
we
two
are,
separate votes.
okay.
So since there's then there's, since there's a recommendation for the 0.5 mils from the budget committee, is there any discussion on that?
I just want to be clear that motion on the floor is about the
The
millage rate.
millage, yes, we're gonna start with that. That's the first thing on the agenda, correct? Yes.
Do you have any public comment?
Yes, is there any, I do have public comment. Is there, from Mrs. Pruitt on the first year millage rate? Would you like to come up and speak? You've got 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you. I wrote it out as 2 minutes, so maybe I'll be okay. Thank you, and I'm just here to ask you to please consider, as you plan the millage and your services, to think about the challenges for children that are experiencing homelessness. Think about that in your plans and your budgets. In August 2018, I begrudgingly attended a meeting regarding a new homeless ministry effort. I didn't want one more fragmented thing going on for homelessness here. But what I heard was that there was a desperate need for more shelter, for support for families. I heard that Opening Doors had support they could offer toward that. And I heard the description of a national program that now has been there, done that for almost 35 years. And it provides services, if you can adopt their model, that's about 1/3 the cost of a traditional shelter. The outcomes nationally for that population that they choose to serve are really amazing, and they provide excellent support to the local affiliates as they try to get on their feet. How in the world is a child supposed to think about school if they don't know where they're going to sleep or where they're going to get their next meal? That's what hit me. No wonder their performance on the school exams are so much poorer than the rest of their classmates. The city's consultant who was here this spring said that even the ones who find a couch to sleep on or a house to sleep in still do just as poorly in school. The Family Promise brochure that I sent to y'all lists some of the other ways that homelessness or experiencing that impacts the kids. I read the purpose of the trust, and we don't fit as an organization, Family Promise, to be funded because we are brand new. We don't have a track record that fits. But I do hope you're going to encourage other organizations that deal with those issues to make use of your guidance, your support, and your funds as they try to care for children. The reasons for homelessness are very varied. And for me, it's no matter what the parents' issues are, if those kids don't get a fair start, if they don't get intense support and get on the right path, then they have very little chance of succeeding in life. Please encourage programs that keep families intact. If you've been reading the papers here in the news, all the discussion is men and women and children as far as developing shelter space. And there are single dads who take care of their families, and there are couples who are out there with their kids, and they're desperately trying to protect them, hide them, not make them a part of the homeless picture that we all see. Don't discourage fathers who are wanting to take responsibility for their families. That's what I ask. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Pruitt. Is there any more discussion on the millage rate of 0.5 mils? All right, hearing none, take a vote on And all in favor of 0.5 mils?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so it passes at 0.5 mils. All right, the next, okay.
Wait, I just want the record to reflect there was no vote from the judge pursuant to statute.
Oh, yes, thank you. The judge abstained. The next is the vote on the budget that came from recommendation from the committee. It was all sent out to you via email. And is there any discussion on the budget?
I have a question, and it's probably maybe a gift, but I notice at the top, we have the repayment of the line of credit as a subtraction from the larger number to arrive at a revenue to be budgeted. I guess I would argue that that 272,104 is revenue that's not on this sheet. And so if we're repaying it from itself. And so it actually doesn't have to be, the repayment of it doesn't have to be budgeted. So I'm just requesting that that 272,104 get pushed down in that contract for providers number and increase it. If they're going to give us 272 and we're going to repay them the 272, unless there's interest on it, you don't have to budget the expenditure of it because you didn't budget the revenue. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So just wanted to give you a little $272,000 gift there. I'm sure everybody's okay with that. Was there interest on that loan? I apologize for not hearing that.
We don't have the loan yet.
Oh, it has not been approved? Okay. That's still a maybe. Thank you.
Is that a motion to amend the budget?
Yes, I
Okay.
would move to amend the budget to delete the repayment for line of credit line and increase the contracts to providers line by the same amount.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion on that? Any discussion at all? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so that passes to amend the budget for the repayment of line of credit to be moved down to contracts to providers line. Any more discussion on the budget as amended?
Just for those that were not at the budget meeting, we did look at the administrative cost of $441,000 relative to the revenue side of it, and it determined that the administrative cost was about, actually a little bit shy of 5% of our money, so that 5% or so or less going towards administrative overhead, leaving the remainder there for distribution for programs and things. I thought was actually somewhere I'd seen something about 14% or so. I can't even remember where that was, but 5% is a much more commendable and palatable amount to go towards administrative overhead. And if Ms. Appleyard would continue to be our interim director at her extraordinary salary, we could probably do even better than that.
Yes.
Madam Chairperson, I did notice that the Florida Children's Council membership is included in that. We haven't actually voted as to whether or not we were going to join that, and I think I essentially just approved the budget, which includes it, but I thought we should maybe have a separate conversation, or at least have a conversation about
Okay, we haven't voted on the budget yet, so it's fine. But this is a tentative budget, so we do have to have this before July 1st. So if we can discuss if we want to take that out of the budget. I know they have been helpful in getting us started up. It is a lot to pay to the Florida Children's membership. I will let Ms. Appleyard speak to that because she's worked a lot with them, and also Ms. Hightower prior to the 5 of us being appointed. I'll let Ms. Hightower also work closely with Ms. Watson as well.
Well, just to be clear, if we agree this is a tentative budget, and by adopting the budget we're on, agreeing to that, we can save it for a later date, I mean, I'm happy to do that. I just thought we should, at some point, we were going to talk about it. When we were a committee of 5, a semi-committee of 5, I know that we talked about it a little bit.
I think you could roll it into other dues and make that decision at a later point. We'll all have a little more experience by then.
I think that's a wise option. is to not pull it out as a named line item, but pull those dollars up under something else. And then it could be still navigated by. The other question I had on the budget is, this appears to begin October of '21. So for the time frame of July, August, and September, the funding for any expenditures of the Children's Trust would come from the line of credit if approved. But we do not have to prepare a budget for those dollars? Or is that a separate?
We did that last month.
That was the last, see?
sorry.
I really didn't pay attention when I was watching from Orlando. Y'all were so fast, I'm sorry. It was like a 35-minute meeting. I'm like, how come the meetings I go to aren't 35 minutes?
I would be willing to make the motion to add the $12,000 and the $14,004 respectively to the line below. This is dues, training, and travel program.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, any more discussion? All right, all in favor of moving the Florida Children's Council membership itemized to, and just move that 12,000 to the dues, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so that motion passes. So now we have 2 amendments to the budget. Any more discussion on the budget?
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to say, there has been a lot of committee work that has been advertised in public, and things are moving rapidly tonight, but there have been committee meetings, and there's more deeper discussion during those bylaws and budget. And so I just want to be clear, if somebody's watching for the first time, that we're just not ramming this through, that there is good information and deep thought and conversation back and forth that goes on, so.
Yes, and you can always watch that back on the Escambia County TV. You can go back and look at all the meetings that we have if you
Or the
really
school
are
board.
interested. Or the school board.
And I want to be clear about the school board. It's our Facebook, our YouTube channels where you find them.
All right, so are you ready to vote on the budget as those 2 I can't talk, those 2 amendments? Sorry. All right, so is there, all in favor of adopting the budget with the 2 amendments we previously voted on? Say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, so the budget passes with the 2 amendments that we previously voted on. All right, so now I did amend the agenda to adopt the 2 resolutions that were sent out to you, that we have to send these resolutions to the county at their next, by July the 1st, and they are, where are my 2? Right here. There are 2 errors that we need to, in the resolution 2021-1, on number 3, we need to put in accordance with ordinance 2020-2022 ordinance code. And we need to change that, to amend that.
Madam Chair, do we have extra copies of that?
Do we have extra copies of the resolutions?
Yeah. I'm sorry, thank you.
It was in an email that was sent out, I don't remember. No, not June 14th. It was the later one she sent out. So the first resolution is establishing a proposed millage rate for the fiscal year, and that says that we're going to do a 0.5 mil and hold the public hearings on September the 14th and September the 20th. And what we need to change is in the part number 3, it says in accordance, we need to put ordinance 2020-22, which is what the Escambia County Ordinance Code is. Yes, sir. So we need to approve this, and then we also need to approve resolution 2021-2, and I would make a, ask to amend it to correct the statute and put, not the statute, but correct how to write the statute out and put the semicolon, or the section number Florida statute, and correct that. Just the grammatical. I'll let y'all look at that since you haven't seen it.
Madam Chair, do we need to change the budget amount now based on our vote? Is it 272?
The budget amount stays the same. The intended budget is it was the contract to providers what was going to change, right? Yes, so the budget amount stays, the 10 million stays the same. Is that what you're talking about, Judge? Right, so that stays,
0.5 mil doesn't change.
right.
Right. I'm sorry. Nope, just, this is what happens when you don't read in advance. Sorry.
Do you need these as separate motions? We have to make one on
Yes,
each
let's make
resolution
separate
separately.
Let's make two motions. So we need a motion to approve the resolution 2021-1 with the amendment that in accordance with ordinance 2020-2022 in part 3. We need a motion for that.
I move the adoption of Resolution 2021-1.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that is resolution 2021-1 is adopted with the amendment to change the ordinance number. All right, so we need a motion for resolution 2021-2, amending the statute, and how, I mean, not the statute, but how to correctly write the statute, and the ordinance as well needs to change in ordinance 2020-2022. Yes, on number 3. I think I said that wrong. So we need a motion.
Madam Chair, is there a misprint, or am I misreading? It says, whereas the Escambia Trust has adopted written legal data for the fiscal year 2021/2021 as required.
Yeah. in the
Yes, that
first
is,
whereas.
yes, I will, yes, we need to change that as well.
Good catch.
Good catch.
Usually in small print on this thing.
And the budget needs to be delivered.
Madam Chair, I move the adoption of Resolution 2021-2 with the Scrivener errors corrected.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So those are all of our votes. We've moved to the discussion item. On the agenda, it was to schedule a personnel committee meeting, but since we've published the agenda, the personnel committee has been scheduled for July 13th, 2021 at 4 p.m. in this room, which is an hour and a half before our regularly scheduled board meeting. And so now we are opening up to, is there any more discussion items that y'all would like to discuss?
Madam Chair, I have an item.
Yes, sir.
Florida Statutes 20.19 is the organizing chapter for the Florida Department of Children and Families, and in it, there's a parens 4 that defines community alliances. And if the community has an alliance, and of course we do here in Escambia County, there is a seat on that alliance for a representative from the county's Children's Board if one exists. So I would just like to let the board members know that we would love one of y'all to sit on our community alliance at Department of Children and Families. If anybody wants to do that as the representative for the Children's Trust, come see me. I'll get you the information.
Now we'll open up to public comment, or public forum. I have not received any public speaker forms. So is there anyone who would like to speak and has not filled one out? All right, seeing none. That will conclude our meeting. I'd like to thank Ms. Appleyard again for her hard work and her hours and hours and hours. It's more than a full-time job for her. And so, by approving the proposed budget and requesting that the property appraiser to the 0.5 mil rate, we are on the track. We have met trim deadline, correct?
Be happy to send you copies of all the papers that go in, but anyway, so you'll have them.
So congratulations to all, and thank you for all your hard work. And is there a motion to adjourn?
I just wanted to say thank you to those of you who serve on the subcommittees. Thank you, Ms. Alviar. Thank you, Mr. Sachs, for being here tonight. We appreciate you. Thank you guys very much.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
All right, we will adjourn. Thank you so much. Congratulations all. Oh, I don't know. No, after all of everything.